Live now to Cary Harrison, radio host of Harrison's Reality Check. Welcome to the programme, Cary. Now, this video we're talking about, it shows a number of Slavic women with whom American men can form relationships. In the context of the ongoing war in Ukraine, what's your take on this ad?
Well, first of all, hello, Peter. It's very interesting because one is a lot of people don't realize that YouTube uses bots, uses artificial intelligence to weed out that which it wants removed. There's not 20 million live humans watching every single live stream, cherry picking it and then kicking it out. So it's automated. Now let's take a look at that video. In it is a woman speaking with a thick accent. The AI, the bots, probably don't know what the words actually are. If it's in a sound that sounds like me, I have an accent to your ear, Peter. I have an American accent. This accent is thicker, and therefore the bots aren't going to understand it. And I get away with this all the time. If I want to say something really naughty on YouTube, I just repronounce it or use maybe a British accent, and you can slide right through. Number two, what is Google or YouTube's prime mission on earth? Sell advertising. It uses the YouTube video channel as a means to sell advertising. So their bots are not looking to remove advertising. It's looking to remove the content that's going to interfere with the advertising. This is an ad done with a foreign accent. So it slides through. Who's paying for it? Well, interestingly enough, if I were on the side of, say, the Western powers, I might put an ad on because I want U.S. white American men to get behind a war in Ukraine against Russia. I'm not saying this is the case, but things don't magically appear on their own like that. Well-produced, not well-produced, effective with an accent. When it could have been recorded without an accent, it could have sounded rather American or at least British.
So YouTube's yet to comment on this video. Artie has requested for a comment. As far as I'm aware, it's not illegal to advertise dating services on the website. What do you make of that?
Well, it's true. That's what we humans have done since the dawn of humankind. We pair, we bond, we've lived in caves, we now live in houses, and skyscrapers, and buildings, and yachts. So that's what we do. And the function of the internet, as we know, at its birth was when it was back in AOL. It was chat rooms, people hooking up and getting together. So the problem, I think, really that's overarching and offensive to most people is take what is yours. As if you pre-own a woman in Ukraine by some divine right because we're somehow involved. That would be the side that it's appealing to. It's not advertising these women for men in Ukraine. It's not advertising them to men in Germany or France or Poland or Hungary, but to the American audience. And this is a great way to enlist, I would think, most men into thinking, what are the spoils of war? You raid, you loot, you take the women. So it kind of follows a traditional clock that we've seen ever since the Romans and the ancient Greeks.
Well, it certainly seems to play on certain stereotypes. Now, thousands of Ukrainian women have arrived or are trying to get to the US as refugees, as they've been forced out of their country. And we do know that in the UK, for example, single men have been banned from taking female Ukrainian refugees. How do you think ads like this would make women feel in the States, for example?
Horrible. I don't know many women who like to fancy themselves as property or as human chattel. And that's what this is indicating, that Ukrainian women are without any kind of agency. And, we just had a Supreme Court decision today in the United States that removed, after 50 years, a woman's right to have her own agency, control her own body. Now the federal government of the United States of America controls women's ability to have a birth, not have a birth. The abortion right was gone. That will then bleed into other civil rights all across the country, from gay rights to you name it, voting rights for African Americans. So this is a real problem, but it also reminds these same guys that would be behind removing women's rights that women are to be owned and run any way you want. Like, it's a big show of ISIS here, but domestically. So It's problematic. If I were a woman, I'd be very upset.
Now, YouTube, like I said, YouTube is yet to comment on it. It does appear that this ad may have slipped through the net. But what do you think is the best way for the platform to deal with such advertisements?
Well, you know, it's a tough one because I'm not a big guy of censorship. I think once you decide you can't say this, then we can then extend it to we can't say this, this, and this. YouTube makes a fortune. Google, Alphabet, this is how they get rich, advertising, taking money for it. They don't really care what's on or not unless there's a complaint. Much like the Federal Communications Commission, the FCC in the United States, you can say anything you want on live radio and television. You can swear thunderously unless somebody complains. If they complain, then the FCC follows up. So now there's been a complaint and YouTube is forced to have to deal with it. But if nobody had complained, this could have gone on for a month. So what do? Well, I think if there ought to be a transparency where whoever buys the advertising, we all have to know who's paying for it. We see it in alcohol commercials. We see it in cannabis commercials. We see it in political ads here in the United States. We find out who's paying for the advertising, so at least we can make an informed decision. I think that's the minimum standard that YouTube should have to deploy so that you and I know who's behind this campaign.
Well, Cary Harrison, host of Harrison's Reality Check. Pleasure as always to have you on the channel. Thanks very much for your take on that ad on YouTube.
Good to see you, Peter.